This program is brought to you by the Georgia Neurosurgical Institute. For over 50 years, rendering neurosurgical care to patients of all social conditions, treating complicated problems involving the brain, spine, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves, endeavoring to encourage quality care, medical research, innovation, and education on a local, national, and international basis.
Good evening. My name is Joe Sam Robinson, and it's my pleasure to have with me this evening Mr. Garrett Williams, who is the head scout executive in this part of the world, in Middle Georgia. Well, welcome, Mr. Williams. It's a pleasure to have you here. And,
Thank you, Dr. Robinson,
yes, sir.
for inviting me.
Good to see you. Good to see you. We're
you.
just talking about the Boy Scouts, which is a huge responsibility, and in my opinion, one of the best organizations our nation has. I can't blow the trumpet loudly enough about your fine organization. But let me start out by asking you some questions. Now, it's always important to find out what your wife's name is, and you have a child, I think. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, sure. The CEO of the Williams household is named Renee Williams.
Great.
And, we've been married for 11 years
now.
Wow. And we have a young daughter by the name of Kyler. She just turned 7 here in January.
Wow.
And so we're very proud of her and her development right now.
Well, that's a great age, 7-year-old daughter, and I hope you exercise appropriate parental restraint, and you're a tough guy, or maybe not?
Well, maybe not. I would say maybe not.
Maybe not.
We actually know who's the chief operating officer in this.
I know well that situation. I know well that situation.
Right.
Well, great. Why don't you? We were just talking about. We have a brief conversation about how you got into scouting and your athletic career. Apparently, you were an athlete in younger days. Is that right?
Well, I wouldn't say a good athlete, but I was good enough to make a couple of teams. I played basketball and ran track and field in high school. And I had the opportunity with basketball to be an all-county basketball player, but also in the track arena. Won 5 state championships in my classification in the state of Florida.
Wow, that's tremendous.
And really enjoyed that.
What were your events?
My events were 100 meters to 200 meters, as well as the triple jump.
Wow.
And was a decent long jumper as well.
Dare you tell me your times? Tell the TV audience your 100 meter dash time?
100 meter dash time in high school was around 10.5, and of course improved that as I went to college. That was my best time in high school.
Yes.
And triple jumped almost 47 feet in high school as well.
Wow.
So had a good time with that and really enjoyed the experience.
You know, I've discovered that if you talk to any athletes, they remember their high school times or the big game. They remember the scores. That's a nice thing to keep with you, isn't it?
Right. It's kind of like that fish when you talk about going fishing. That fish just
right.
gets
Yeah,
bigger
that's
and bigger
right.
and
Well,
bigger,
and then you threw the touchdown pass or whatever, almost won. That's a good story. Well, you went through college and had your athletic career, and you were considering, like many a young man, what should I do next? And you thought about things, and what happened after you? What did you do? How did you decide to get into scouting?
Well, after graduating from college, I went home for a little bit, back to my hometown of Lakeland, Florida.
Yes.
Moved back to Memphis and started spending a little time working for the local park commission there in the city of Memphis. Met a friend that I've known during my college days, and he informed me that he was working for the Boy Scouts of America and that I ought to give it a try. And I went down to the local council office there in Memphis and interviewed and became a district executive, and didn't realize that all through my time in scouting as a youth, that there was a professional side to this organization.
Right. Now, so you're in the Scouts when you were younger. And I'm not going to mention this Eagle Scout issue, so I shouldn't talk about that.
No, you shouldn't. I wasn't a very good scout, but I did have a lot of fun with the program.
Well, that's right. Well, so okay, not everybody can. You've obviously done well in scouting.
Exactly.
And so you've been in scouting in the administrative side of that for a number of years. Is that right?
Right. My career started in 1993 in Memphis, and I spent 3 years there at the beginning of my career. I also worked for the Boy Scouts in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, for about 7 years. Back to Memphis to serve as their chief operating officer, and then had the opportunity to move here in October of 2008. So.
Wow, well, that's great. That's a good story. Now, I'm going to blow the trumpet about scouting.
All right,
we're out there. I mean, anybody that walks around walks down the highways and byways of this part of the world, you hear all kinds of bad stories. There are all kinds of bad people out there. There are all kinds of bad things happening. And there's one organization that's doing its very best to have our young American males
Exactly.
To have them good citizens and good husbands and good fathers. And so that's the kind of organization we need to support here locally. You know, the scouting started in England, is that right? The international, how did all that start?
It started in England. Lord Baden-Powell, who is actually the father of the scouting movement, started this program, and as an effort to get boys together to teach boys how to become men.
Yes.
In around 1908, a gentleman by the name of William Boyce ran across a young man who helped him get across the street.
Yes.
And then when he offered him a shilling to thank him for his help, the young man said, "No, a scout does not take a reward for helping someone.
Wow,
we
that's
do
a good
turn
story.
daily." The scouting movement here in our country, the United States, was started in 1910 by William Boyce, and we've just recently celebrated our 100th anniversary of scouting as a scouting movement. So we have a lot to be proud of here in our country, and also here in Middle Georgia.
And actually, this is a worldwide organization, isn't it?
A worldwide movement.
You know, I was having an interesting interchange with a local gentleman from another country who grew up in a dictatorship, and I won't name the country, but it's in the news. I'd say it's in the news a lot if you're watching television. But the dictator in this country would not allow scouting because the values are antithetical to a totalitarian state. Am I right? How could a true scout exist or would accept a dictator or a country that, or a government that did bad things? It would be antithetical, would it not?
It would. It would go against everything that's about scouting, and of course go against their social mores as well, because you're trying to teach the scout to be self-reliant and think for themselves.
Yes.
And I don't think a dictator would like his young men
that's
to be
right.
able to
Well,
think
that's
for
right. So
themselves.
that's one. I think scouting is a good antidote against any potential dictators that might try and arise. In this
we need more of them.
That's right. That's right. Well, scouting is a very inclusive organization. We try and get as many people from every walk of life, every social condition. We try and get them in. Is that right?
That is true. We don't discriminate race, creed, or color, and we want to make sure that every young person has the opportunity to be a part of what we consider to be the best youth movement in this country.
Yes. Now, I mean, I don't know if we could go through the list of great Americans that have been Boy Scouts. I think George Washington was born a little before scouting.
He was born a little, but he would have made a good Boy Scout.
But in general, if you just go through the pantheon of American leaders and people that have made our civilization what it is, it's just loaded with Boy Scouts. Is that correct?
Oh, exactly. I want to say 11 of your first 26 astronauts were Eagle Scouts.
Yes.
And many of those astronauts were scouts. Many of the astronauts today are scouts. Some of your presidents were scouts. Gerald Ford was an Eagle Scout. That is part of our program. So scouting has touched a lot of lives, and our alumni base is over 5 million strong here in this country. So,
you know, I can tell you, as far as physicians go, it's extremely common to meet Eagle Scouts in the doctor's lounge or wherever. I mean, they're in every walk of life, and they're doing a great job. Well, let me talk about some of the particular useful things for scouting with young men. I mean, it's tough to come of age these days, is it not? As a young male in the United States, some people might think they're a little threatened. I mean, it's hard to find your way in life. It
is hard to find your way in life, but scouting kind of creates that safe place for our young men to grow and develop and to be nurtured by adult role models who are there to act as guides to show them a way. And we find that our best programs are the ones that have trained leaders that show young men how to be leaders, where they're able to develop leadership skills in what we call small troops or small groups that we call patrols. And so in doing this, we're able to help young men become self-reliant, build citizenship, learn how to care for our environment, and to be overall good people, overall individuals that are prepared for this race of life.
Yes, and it's tough out there, isn't it? I mean, it's tough. You can imagine what a young person is going to face in the 21st century. I mean, we can't anticipate the storms, the rough weather. We can really have some difficult times in front of us.
We can have some difficult times in front of us, but I think with scouting, we can provide that guidepost for young men to follow.
Yes.
And if they have something they could kind of go back and lean on, when they have someone that's trying to steer them in the wrong direction, they can always go back to scouting, remember those points in the scout load, remember what they've learned in scout oath, and overall be good people and good citizens for this country.
Well, I mean, the sense of moral integrity, I mean, it's the sine qua non of, I guess, our country. I mean, having young men that have that sense is a huge thing, is it not? Yes.
It's the expectation.
Yes.
As we say our motto, to be prepared. We want our young men to be prepared for life. But what they get out of, on my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, is extremely important in their overall growth and development.
Now, we have, unfortunately, I mean, this is the way the world is. There are a lot of young men that are growing up in broken homes. It's difficult. I mean, these domestic situations are difficult, and really, scouting is something. It's useful for anyone, but particularly a young man that needs that male role model. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. We want to reach out to every youth that we can, whether they're in a single family home or even in a broken home like that, to ensure that they can be a part of this program and provide those resources necessary. Here in the Central Georgia Council, we want to make sure that scouting will be an option for all youth, regardless of their financial background, regardless of if they're in a broken home. We want to put them in a program that we feel will be the best fit for them, finding that adult role model that parent will be satisfied with, and that boy will feel like he will be having an opportunity to be nurtured by.
Well, there's a lot of group camaraderie, and young men sort of go through these rites of passage together. And
Exactly.
And now, what about our local situation here? Can you discuss the situation in Middle Georgia? How many scouts are there out there? And maybe just talk about that a little bit.
Well, here locally, we serve 24 counties in Middle Georgia.
Yes.
And in those counties, we serve over 5,700 youth through our scouting program, from Cub Scouting, which focuses on young men ages 6 to 10, Boy Scouting, which is the hallmark of what everybody identifies with, serves young men 11 to 17, but we also have some co-ed programs. We have a high adventure program called Venturing for young adults ages 14 to 20, and a career awareness program called Exploring that serves that same age group. And we make efforts here in our local classroom through a program called Learning for Life, in which we provide a character education curriculum to those schools who wish to use that as part of character development in the schools. All school districts are required to provide some level of character education. And through Learning for Life, we have something that school districts have the opportunity to use.
Now, do you collaborate with local school districts with these programs?
We collaborate with our local school districts with all of our programs, and the important thing about scouting is that scouting operates and is successful through the relationships that we create out in the community, whether that be through churches, whether that be through schools, civic clubs, or any other service organization. That's how scouting survives, and that's how it thrives, because through those organizations, we're able to identify the adult leadership and the facilities needed to go out and help us identify and then recruit young people to be a part of those programs and to receive a quality scouting experience.
Yes, and so there are lots of interesting things for a young person to do in scouting. I mean, lots of interesting, you named High Adventure. Well, that sounds like an interesting thing. What is the High Adventure program?
Well, High Adventure program for us could be everything, and I like to call it as our version of the X Games. It could be everything from whitewater rafting to mountain climbing to caving, scuba diving, snorkeling, anything that's going to be a big adventure for our young youth. We have the opportunity to provide that for them through the Scout program. And so at every age, there's a stage in which these young men have the opportunity to develop, and we have a program that fits that particular need for that particular age group.
Now let's suppose you're out there watching and you say, well, my son might have an interest in this, or how would you go about getting the young person involved in scouting? Is there a number to call?
Sure, certainly. The only thing they need to do is call our local scout office number, and that is 743-9386.
Yes.
Once they call that number, they will be routed to an individual that will be able to help them and get them connected to a scouting program of their choice.
And so what would a typical, scouting arrangement, what would it be like for a 10-year-old? You meet, where would you meet, how often, and what would happen with a 10-year-old?
For a typical 10-year-old, that typical 10-year-old would be what we call a Webelow in our program.
Now, is that like a buck private or a Webelow? Or I think that was my rank. I'm trying to remember.
It could be a buck private if you want to look at it that way.
And you work your way up to general.
And you work your way up to general, and that general will be an Eagle Scout in our program.
Yes.
That 10-year-old would be in a program that would probably meet weekly in what we call a den.
Yes.
And he would be surrounded by other young men that he may know, that are probably a part of the school that he goes to. Maybe they're in the same classroom, nurtured by some caring adults that are working with them and their parents to help them get the most out of the scouting program.
Now, the adult volunteers, how does scouting get those people involved in the movement? How do you get those people?
Our message to all our adults, whether they believe it or not, is an hour a week, and that's I guess that's our hook.
Right, yes.
But we actively recruit our adults and to get them interested and get them excited and empower them to take on ownership of the scouting program of their choice. And so whether that be through fall registration, through our fall registration period, in which we call school nights, where we actively recruit new families in the program and identify adults that we can train. That is our method of making sure that we always have a qualified adult leadership base available for our young people. And I like to mention that here in Middle Georgia, we have over 1,600 registered volunteers that are out there servicing scouting on a weekly basis.
And so that's really, kudos to those people that do that. That's extraordinarily important thing. Well, now I've heard the word jamboree in the past.
Jamboree.
What exactly is a jamboree?
Jamboree is what we call, it happens every 4 years, but it is the big party for scouting.
Yes.
Our national jamboree, which was our 100th anniversary jamboree here in 2010, was at Fort A.P. Hill, Virginia.
Yes.
And we had
Actually, I've been at Fort A.P. Hill. When I was in the National Guard, I was there for a memorable period of time. Yes. Southside Virginia.
Exactly. And my first experience at Fort A.P. Hill was the 1981 jamboree.
Yes.
But that is our opportunity and our big show for our youth in the scouting program. And we have over 35,000 scouts and up there, and we turned Fort A.P. Hill into a major scout city for a couple of weeks.
And the U.S. government allowed you to do that, is that correct?
The U.S. government allowed us to do that, and 2010 actually it was our last year at Fort A.P. Hill. We are actually in 2013.
Yes.
We will have a permanent home for the National Jamboree in Bleckley, West Virginia, at a new high adventure base called the Summit. And that will be a 10,000-acre facility that will host the National Jamboree, but also hold other high adventure opportunities for our young people.
Wow, that sounds great. Now, Georgia, do we attempt to get that in Georgia, or I hope we did.
I'm sure someone sent a letter, but it just didn't work out for Georgia this time.
That's too bad. Well, that's really great. So now there's a permanent Jamboree place.
Exactly.
And, so that happens every 4 years, and people from all over the world come. Is that correct?
People from all over the country. We also have contingents from across the world that attend that. That facility in 2019, and I know that seems like it's a long way away, will also hold the World Jamboree.
Wow.
And so that would be a huge opportunity for our scouts here in Middle Georgia to see that as the world converges on scouting here in our country.
And so that's a really big thing. Now, do people go out west somewhere? Where do people go that are in scouting? They have all sorts of adventures. They go out west.
Exactly, Dr. Robinson. We have all sorts of high adventure bases. Probably the creme de la creme of our high adventure bases is Philmont Scout Reservation, and
in New Mexico.
In New Mexico.
I've heard of it.
New Mexico.
Yes.
And if you want to find a way to turn boys into men, just go on a 12-day trek or a 20-day trek there at Philmont. And so these young men had the opportunity to do this every summer, and those adults and youth that participate that come back renewed and talk about the experience that they had up there. And we're fortunate here in Middle Georgia to have as many troops that are able to have that experience on a yearly basis.
Yes. Wow, and so what a great adventure for a young person. And how old would you be to go out there? I mean, a teenager? Or?
You would have to be a teenager, and my suggestion for anybody would be at least 14 years old, at least first class, to go out there and have some strong scout skills.
Right.
Because it's going to take that.
You can't be too wimpy and make it out there.
No, you can't be too wimpy. I tell you what, scouting is for tough guys.
Yeah, so. you can't be too wimpy to do this.
No, you cannot.
Right. Wow, that sounds like an extraordinary positive experience. And some people, I can't understand why they would attack scouting, but I said the culture we live in, I guess. Is that right?
I think it's the culture we live in, and I think that when you have a model that has been as successful as scouting has been for 100 years, there are going to be those antagonists that want to find something wrong with the program and how the program actually operates.
Yes.
But the strength of scouting is within its volunteers, not the professional side. We are here to make sure that the mission and the vision that each local council volunteer
yes.
organization has is carried through and followed through with to serve as many young people as possible.
Wow, it's just an extraordinarily powerful movement. Let's see, you have things like the Wild Game Dinner. Can you talk about that? What exactly is that? I mean,
the Wild Game Dinner is our big show for scouting that happens in Macon, and we'll have that dinner on March 17th.
March 17th,
and it's an opportunity for our council to tell the story of scouting to a few hundred people that may only be able to hear this story possibly once a year, and they come out and are able to enjoy themselves and be with other friends of scouting and hear a great speaker. Our speaker this year is actually the new head coach of Mercer University football, Coach Bobby Lamb. And he will be our keynote speaker on that evening. Great.
I've had the privilege of meeting Coach Lamb. I think it's going to be a really good fit with Mercer, and I know he's going to be an inspirational speaker. And what's the deal on a wild game? Does that mean you have like, I don't know, what, something strange, wild peacocks, or what actually
Well, we may not have wild peacock, and we hope that everything out on the table you will actually recognize, but we will have everything from hog to a wild hog to duck. Even one year I think we had bear. So
you had some bear.
Whatever the trappers get, that's what we have.
How do you get the wild game for the?
Strictly volunteers, avid hunters that are out there that are friends of scouting, and they provide that the meal for that evening. And the place that we use is very qualified in preparing those meals, and everyone that's there has a great time and enjoys the message that we will deliver that evening.
I wonder what wild bear tastes like. I have to think about that.
Well, I decided to skip that piece.
Yeah, so wild bear. Well, I mean, this, I guess that's pretty good. Well, now the highest rank is Eagle Scout. What does it take to? What's the journey through starting out as a 6-year-old in Cub Scouts, I would say.
Starting out as Cub Scout.
And then going up to Eagle Scout. What does that entail to get there? How does one become an Eagle Scout?
Well, once you get past Cub Scouting and go through your phase of Webelos, we get you as a new Boy Scout into this program, and then that's where the journey begins on your trail to Eagle. During that trail, you're going to be able and have the opportunity to prove yourself through a variety of different, what we call rank advancements, that you'll be able to earn from tenderfoot all the way to first class, and then also the merit badges that you will be able to participate in, will be able to earn, will also be able to possibly learn something, whether that be something about medicine, whether that be something about safety and law enforcement, engineering, whatever field of human endeavor that you're interested in at that time. It takes roughly 21 merit badges to earn the rank of Eagle. And through that process, that young man will learn how to become, again, self-reliant, but also learn how to lead others through that process, because earning the rank of Eagle is the culmination of what you're doing in the Boy Scouts, but also is the beginning as well. They will have the opportunity to do what we call an Eagle Scout project, where they will enlist the help of others and guide others in the completion of a particular project that will benefit a community. And in doing so, each potential Eagle Scout has to commit to at least 100 hours of community service while performing that Eagle Scout project. So not only do the boys learn something and the young men that are involved in helping this Eagle Scout with the project, but the community benefits as well, because we want to make sure that they are doing something that benefits the community as a whole.
So actually we get a sense of manly self-confidence, is that right?
Manly self-confidence.
Yes, not an altogether a bad thing to have. It's a good thing to have. Well, actually, I'll just make a comment. Our civilization is under assault from so many quarters. I mean, there's so many things that are these corrosive impacts on, our national character. It's extraordinary that scouting is still here with all the artillery fire directed against it.
Exactly.
I mean, it really fulfills an extraordinary national need. Are things going okay in this part of the country for scouting? Are we doing okay here?
Things are doing well. Things are doing well, and we're very fortunate, as I mentioned earlier. Our volunteers help lead the charge, and we've been able, through 100 years as a movement, stay consistent with our mission of building character in young people. And that's kind of a hard argument kind of hard to argue against
yes,
that when the facts are laid out in terms of what Scouting Impact is, and those individuals that are alumni of this program relate their experiences to others. And so we're very fortunate, and we're staying the course in terms of what our movement believes in and what we feel our core volunteers believe in as well.
Yes, and the values that are taught. I mean, you're not trying to brainwash anyone. I mean, you're still able to have whatever opinion you want, but it's a sense of respect for other people, for core national values. Is that a fair thing to say?
Exactly. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Some basic common sense stuff. And I think if you sit down and you look at the Scout law and you look at the Scout oath, it's kind of hard to argue against that.
It's an apolitical thing. If anyone imagines that people are trying to espouse any particular political viewpoint, that's not the case.
That's not the case of Scouting, and that's not who we are. We're just trying to build young men, and of course in our co-ed program, young women of character that would be self-reliant and be able to think for themselves and make ethical decisions.
Right, and I think it's surprising the number of people. I mean, even in the most how can one say it, avant-garde cultures, that actually, if you it turns out they've had a positive Scouting experience. And as you travel, don't you just find all kinds of people that will tell you their Scouting stories?
They will tell me what their Scouting stories is. I had the opportunity to talk to a man yesterday that remembers his time in the Scouting program, his time at Camp Benjamin Hawkins, one of our local camps here.
Benjamin Hawkins, yes.
His time taking rowing merit badge, and how he had to tip that rowboat over, and he said he almost didn't come up, but he made it, and he earned that merit badge.
Benjamin Hawkins, what is the story these days on Benjamin Hawkins?
Benjamin Hawkins is just a wonderful facility that we have. Last year alone, we had over 3,000 Scout and Scouters utilize that facility, and it's a facility that we are holding on to. And are getting great use out of for not only Cub Scout and activities like day camp and cubberies, but also weekend activities for our Boy Scouts and adult leader training as well. And so it's a facility that I call the heartbeat of our council.
Yes.
And it's one that we're going to hang on to for a long time.
A lot of little guys are running around chuckling out there. A lot of giggling and chuckling, and boys are boys, aren't they?
Boys are being boys, and they're having a good time. And here recently, 2 years ago, we embarked on our winter camp program. And last year, I want to say, in 2009, we had roughly 48 boys participate in that program. In 2010 winter camp version, we tripled that and had 150 boys participate. So what we're doing out there is making a difference, and that camp is being used definitely by the community and definitely by our Scouting supporters.
Wow, that's a good story. And we could talk a lot about many things. The young men that go through the program, and let's say locally, they make it through this, they become Eagle Scouts. I think you follow their progress. I mean, they really do extraordinarily well, don't they? They go to college, they take steps forward, they have a good life, they become stable fathers. I mean, is that a fair statement about the result of this?
That is a fair statement as a result of a young man being in the program, and we have studies that have been done by Lewis Harris and Associates that attest to that. Even if a young man has just spent a little bit of time in the program, he has picked up something that he will find that is beneficial for him for the rest of his life. And we think and we believe that a young man going through the Scouting program is going to learn how to treat others, is going to be a good citizen, is going to, through our merit badge program, is going to find a career of choice, and be a good father, be a good ambassador for his community.
Now, there's nothing wrong with the Scouting oath, is there? Is that correct?
Never is.
I mean, can you give us the Scouting oath?
I hope I can. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Well, that sounds like for any young person. I mean, that sounds like a good guide for life, doesn't it?
It is a good guide for life, and you think about those first 8 words: "On my honor, I will do my best," and then Scout oath. I think if a young man just internalizes that alone, I think he'll be okay.
Well, Mr. Williams, it's been a pleasure having you here tonight. I hope our message is going out to our audience, and I hope we can get some recruits for this noble and superior movement of which you're such an important part. So thank you so much for
Dr.
coming.
Robinson,
Hope
thank you
to
for the
talk to you
opportunity.
some more.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll hear some. Good.
This program is brought to you by the Georgia Neurosurgical Institute. For over 50 years, rendering neurosurgical care to patients of all social conditions, treating complicated problems involving the brain, spine, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves, endeavoring to encourage quality care, medical research, innovation, and education on a local, national, and international basis.